Here at Trust the Profits, we got a weakness for Preakness. Trust the Profits, it's a formula here to talk to you, giving you a full field rundown as we know it on 510 for Preakness. So we're coming at you a little bit early with this. Um, May 20th, so we're 10 days away from Preakness. This is the field that we think might happen. Don't know the jockeys yet, don't know the final field. I added a couple more horses in off of on top of this here. But what are we talking about? Preakness Stakes at Pimlico. It's a G1, 9.5 furlongs, 1 mile and 3/16 on dirt. Got some hopefuls in here from that we haven't seen at the Kentucky Derby yet. Couple that we did. Let's see what we got. Starting at the top, the Kentucky Derby winner, Mage. 2 wins in 4 races for Mage. Second place at the Florida Derby, 1 length behind Forte, as we all know, in a race where he was gaining the lead down the stretch, and Forte just had enough to get past him at that in that race. He was the Kentucky Derby winner after that, after Forte scratched for whatever reason, bulging knee possibly. Um, an impressive Derby winner was Mage. Beat a pretty strong field there, I would say. Fountain of Youth was just a second race. Considering that he finished a respectable fourth in that race, 6 lengths behind to Forte again. Broke his maiden in his first race before that. What else do we have to say about Mage? A lot of people are going to have him as their favorite in this race, despite the 14-day turnaround. Who else is having a quick turnaround here? Let's talk about Confidence Game. At first, he had too long of a turnaround, 74 days, and now we're talking about a 14-day turnaround. So potentially Confidence Game going into Preakness. He did come in 10th place at the Kentucky Derby, which is probably about where most people had him. He didn't do a lot better than expected. Probably slotted right in about that right area. Before that, he was the winner of the Rebel Stakes, 8.5 furlongs, beating Red Route, won by a length in that race. Came in third at LeCompte. Confidence Game, looking to rebound from the Kentucky Derby and show that he's got a bit more, perhaps. Blazing Sevens. So, we talk about Blazing Sevens and talk about a horse that we saw a lot of in 2022. Thought that he could have been setting himself up for something a little bit bigger here, but third place at the Bluegrass, 6 lengths behind Verifine and Tapit Trice, who did not do well at the Kentucky Derby. So taking that consideration, 6 lengths behind those two horses, right? Not taking anything away from them, but at the Kentucky Derby level, they were not at the top of the pack. They were at the back in the finish. Poor finish at the Fountain of Youth. Eighth place, second to last, 26 lengths behind Forte in that one. He was fourth place in the BC Juvenile, 5.25 lengths behind the winner there, Forte, 1.5 behind National Treasure, who's also in this race. We'll be talking about him in a second here. Um, yeah, Blazing Sevens. I'm going to put him in the same boat that I put Jace's Road in. Just not impressed anymore. National Treasure, um, pretty much finishing in the money in all of his races, except for the one where he did actually race under Tim Yaktine. He's now back to Bob Baffert. Fourth place finish at Santa Anita Derby. Almost 3 lengths behind Practical Move and Mandarin Hero in that race. The races he was in, other than the BC Juvenile, haven't been extremely impressive. He was in the BC Juvenile. He was 3.75 lengths behind Cave Rock and Forte in that race. He always seems to show small fields, other than that BC Juvenile, never really seems to, get the big win. Yes, I mean he came in third at the Sham. He did have his one win in there. I have yet to see anything from National Treasure to lead me to believe that he's one of Baffert's stronger horses, or that he can win a race like the Preakness with the other level of horses we're talking about here. Chase the Chaos, 3 wins in 8 races. Most recently, though, an eighth place finish in a non-graded stakes race, a California Derby at the Golden Gate, finishing 6 lengths behind Prince of Abu Dhabi. Not exactly the thrilling headline you're looking for headed into the Preakness. He was seventh at the San Felipe in a G2 race, 16 lengths behind. Never better than seventh place in that entire race. I mean, those were his last 2 races. Claim to fame, obviously. He did win the El Camino Real at Golden Gate Park, going 9 furlongs, beating Gilmore by 1.5 lengths, charging hard down the stretch to get that win in. So that's really the notch in his belt at this point. Other than that, I gotta say, Chase the Chaos feels like an instant toss to me. Yeah, I'll hear about it in the comment section. I know you people. First mission. All right, first mission. So won the Lexington Stakes, the last chance to get into the Kentucky Derby. One that did not enter in the Derby, didn't have enough points, I believe, since this was a young horse, not a whole lot of races under his belt. He did beat Arabian Lion in that race by half a length. Also beat Disarm in that race. Some people say Disarm was only looking for about a third place finish to get enough points to get into the Derby. But regardless, it shall be known that First Mission beat Disarm in that race. An exceptional win in his maiden win, 8.5 furlongs, race at Fairgrounds, winning by 6 3/4, wiring a field of 10. Was defeated in his first race by Bishop's Bay, another impressive Brad Cox horse. So this is a young horse with a strong trajectory. If there's anyone that can upset Mage, First Mission is on a lot of people's lists. Disarm. So Disarm, saw him in the Derby, finished fourth. How about that? Disarm finished fourth. I mean, when you place the Derby next to everything else Disarm has done, it's pretty impressive. He's 6 races, 5 of them finished in the money. The one that he didn't was a fourth place at the Derby, so that's pretty strong. We talked about third place at the Lexington. What does that mean? He was 4 lengths behind First Mission, but of course the trainer Steve Asmussen was probably thinking maybe rest him up a little bit, just get enough to win. Um, yeah, no joke there. Second place at the Louisiana Derby behind Kings Barnes, 3.5 lengths. The distance there is the same distance we're talking about for Preakness, 9.5 furlongs. Broke his maiden at Saratoga in August, et cetera, et cetera. So what do we think about Disarm here? Pretty strong horse. Definitely it's got some potential here, but keep in mind, turn around from Lexington to Kentucky Derby, now turn around from Kentucky Derby into Preakness. If he is in this race, that's quick succession for a high-end thoroughbred in G1 races. Red Route 1, fun to say. 9 races, 2 wins lifetime. Second place finish, 8.5 furlongs at the Southwest Stakes behind Arabian Night, one of his more recent races. Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes behind Instant Coffee. Third place at the Claiborne Futurity behind who? None other than Loggins. Loggins and maybe Forte as well. But regardless, he finished third in that race, broke his maiden at Kentucky Downs. Hasn't won since moving to dirt. Hasn't really looked that bad either. Red Route 1, a curious horse. This is a closer. Got the distance in place here, so it sets up well for him. Is he going to make the cut for us? Wait and see. Perform. Sort of a left field horse here, probably one you haven't heard a whole lot about. He's been traveling from park to park. It took him 6 races to break his maiden. Finally broke it at Tampa Bay, going 1 mile and 40, winning by 2 3/4 lengths. The last time out, he won the Federico Tessio Stakes at Laurel Park, going 9 furlongs there, winning by a head over 90% Maddie. Made up 5 places and 6 lengths down the stretch. It looked like he was out of it, but really had a nice charge. So we're talking about yet another closer here, one that seems to be doing better when getting more distance. Obviously, the question here, we're talking about horses that have been racing in graded one stakes. Perform hasn't done that yet. So is he up to the challenge for this level of horse? Instant Coffee, let's bring him back into the fold. He wasn't on the list originally, but his name has been floated around as being a potential for Preakness. Finished a disappointing 6th place at the Louisiana Derby. That's the last thing we saw from Instant Coffee. After January and February, a lot of people had Instant Coffee in their top 5. He didn't even make the cut for the Derby, didn't even make the top 23 as we saw for the Kentucky Derby, and they needed to go down to 23. He was behind Kings Barnes in that one, never really got moving. Always the concern for Instant Coffee is he's slow to get started, a real charger from behind, a closer's closer, but he's going to have to get himself into position to where he can actually get that straight line going, a full head of steam, and it didn't set up for him nicely at Louisiana Derby. Was it the crowd? Was it too many horses? Possibly. Because in January at Lecomte, he didn't have that problem. 8.5 furlongs. He won that by 2.5 lengths over 2 fills. There you go. Second place finisher at the Kentucky Derby, I do believe. 2 fills, if I remember that correctly. And confidence game. Winner of the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes at Churchill Downs in November, beating Curly Jack, etc., etc. He may have actually raced against Forte and Logan. Okay, we'll cut it off right there. You've had enough of that. Instant Coffee, this is an interesting place for him to end up if Brad Cox does enter him into the race. Definitely someone to consider. And then finally, I'll mention Henry Q here. Um, Recently, not looking extremely impressive. 2 wins in 5 races, third place finish at the Sunland Park Derby after starting off the race on the pace, faded back, and lost to Wild on Ice and Low Expectations by 3 3/4 lengths. Not so great. But before that, when he was trained under Doug O'Neill, which he isn't anymore, he's under Todd Fincher. But when he was trained under Doug O'Neill, Mind the Bird, he won that race by 14 3/4 lengths. Um, Pretty impressive, wiring the field, put significant distance out there between him and the other horses. So it seems like he's a horse that has the ability. Granted, it wasn't a graded stakes race, but 14 3/4 lengths in a wiring race in that type of distance, 8.5 furlongs, is pretty impressive nonetheless. So could the door be open for a Henry Q? Are we going to see an improvement here? Is he going to be even entered in the race? I've seen his name thrown about a little bit, but definitely a horse to consider here. So where does that leave us? Strategy, I am going with First Mission. So what have we seen lately? Um, Seen horses like, whoops, shaking the desk. We've seen horses like Rombauer come out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere, but Rombauer, early voting, horses that have had rest, didn't go to the Kentucky Derby, running against horses that did go to the Kentucky Derby, like Central Quality, I believe, Epicenter for sure, last year, and winning. So I'm just going to say First Mission has had a little bit more rest than, say, a Mage, a Disarm. I'm going to put First Mission up as my top play here for Preakness. Second up, got to throw in Mage. I mean, he's Kentucky Derby winner, ran an impressive race. I mean, you saw his stretch run there. Had a lot of kick left in that horse. So shaping up for the Preakness, got to consider Mage. Red Route 1, we just know his closing ability. Like to move him in there as well. A horse that we've been talking about in preparation for the Derby, one that many of us thought it would be there and would be an impressive closer potentially in that field. Didn't see it happen, but he's been resting. So this is a good spot for him as well. And finally, Disarm. I mean, it's hard to ignore Disarm. Finishing in the money in every single race except for the Derby, finishing in fourth in that. He likes the distance. He's run it before. He bounces back well. We'll see what we get from Disarm here, right? All right. So 10 days out. We have no idea who's going to be in. We just had possibles, probables. Don't even know who the jockeys are at this point. But what do you think at this point for Preakness? Does that look about right to you guys? Hit me up in the comments. Hit the like button. We appreciate your likes, by the way. And yeah, we hope to hear from you. See ya.